Hi, welcome. We're going to begin by setting up our workspace so we can get to work on modeling our 3D character that we'll be using for rigging and all that good stuff later on the semester. The first thing we need to do is we've got Maya open here. I'm going to go ahead and set my project workspace so that everything saves nicely into one common area. Go down here and hit File, go down to Set Project, and I'm going to create a new folder. And we'll just call this Toon Guy. It'll be our generic character, and we'll set that. It says we don't have a workspace set up there yet. We're going to go ahead and create a workspace. That'll drop all of our folders for all of our different file sets and images in there. Alright, I'm going to start by setting up the planes we're going to use for our reference image. So I'm going to go ahead and click this polygon plane here. We'll drop a plane at origin. I'm going to set the subdivisions to just one each. We don't need any unnecessary geometry there. And what I did is I created our reference images with a nice round number to make it easier to scale this reference plane to it so it had the right aspect ratio. I know already that the images we're going to be using are 250 wide by 400 high. So I'm just going to go ahead and set my width here to 2.5 and my height to 4, and that should translate to the correct aspect ratio I'm going to need later. Go ahead and hit my layer editor here, and I'm going to rotate this thing out, or start to. Rotated too far. Do a nice perfect 90-degree rotation on the X. It's 4 high. With its point of origin in the center of it, so I'm going to translate that up by 2 so it rests nicely on our grid. And I'm going to go ahead and move it back by 2 as well. Oh, negative. Right, that's exactly the size and shape we need for our side reference. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit File. File, Edit. Yes, under Edit, and then Duplicate. And now I've got 2 of these things. Rotate the new one out, again by 90 degrees. Set them back to 0, and I believe what I want to do is on my X go over by 1. Yeah, that looks right. I'm going to move that out to 1, negative 1. That almost looks like what we need. What happened? Oh, I need to go out by 1.25 on this side since our width was 2.5. Alright, now that my OCD fit has been satisfied and everything looks just about perfectly placed, we've got some reference images or some planes for our images. The next thing to do is hit Windows, my rendering editor, and go to Hypershade. Scroll down, create a new Lambert, and then we'll create a file node to attach to that. lucky us, he had already attached it, so it's just sitting out here. Use my scroll wheel to zoom in and out. Okay, so we've got our file node. I believe all we've got to do now is go out and grab our image. So I've already dropped my Toon Guy reference images out onto my desktop, so I'm going to use the front here. Set that. There's lots of ways I can do this. I can grab this image, go back to my Lambert, and then grab the reference plane, select Lambert 2, right click and assign material to selection. You'll see we don't see any perceptible difference. I'll go back out here and hit 6 with my viewport selected. Still don't see it. Okay, don't know why that's not showing up. As I said, there's multiple ways to do this. So I'm going to middle mouse click, if you have the ability to do that, from Lambert and just drag it straight onto the plane. There it shows. Minimize hypershade for now. So for whatever reason, our image seems to be hanging off, even though we set it to the correct ratio. Go over here to my my attribute editor. And I'll create UVs. Just go to normalization off. There it is. That's the look we're looking for. I'll zoom in or hit F. And there's one plane done. I'll bring my hypershade back up, and we're going to go through that whole process again. So create a new Lambert. Let's move it out over here so it doesn't look all cluttered. With that Lambert selected, select the new file. Which almost looks like it attached to the old Lambert. So I'm going to middle mouse drag over. Too many nodes. Got to peel it all back. I don't see the lines I expect. We'll go ahead and move on. Maybe we can connect it later. Alright, so in file 2, go ahead and grab Toon Guy side. Middle mouse click and drag to this other plane. There. So I applied the Lambert and then I applied the file, and that created the necessary associations. Don't know why. We can figure that out later. I'm going to close out Hypershade, and it looks like we again have this stretching problem. So on my Lambert 3 in my attribute editor, I lost another setting. Let me open up Hypershade again. I don't know where that setting went that allowed us to readjust that. Polyplane 1, create UVs, normalization off. Okay. Interesting. Maybe since we duplicated it, we don't have access to that particular node on this other side. Fine, we'll make a new one. Go ahead and delete that. We've already got our texture set up, so all we got to do is, start completely over. Go ahead and minimize Hypershade. There we go again. That's what I'm looking for. Subdivisions, height and weight. Alright, now we're back in place with all of our nodes, we hope. Pull a Piper shade. Again, middle mouse drag onto the new plane. Right. Did what happened before, except this time we have access to this extra node here for polyplane, and go to normalization off. So we all learned something, it appears. Don't know what it means, but we learned it. Right. The only thing I see wrong with this picture is our character's nose is facing his back. So what we're going to do is flip him around by 180-ish. Go back in my channel editor. Negative 90. And move them over on the positive axis. There we go. Now we could almost do something if we wanted to. So I believe those will line up. And we've got the start of our references so we can start creating our character. Before we do anything crazy and mess this all up, we're going to go ahead and save it. Save scene as. Toon guy area. I don't know why it's showing me all these other things in the default. Back and reset that. We've got a workspace. Okay then. This will be Toon guy. Save it in there. Oh look, we're the student version. I think we're good. I'm going to pause a sec and then we will go ahead and pick up with our next video where we actually start to create this character.